branding and design are a big part of your business image. But how do you brand so that you can stand out in the market rather than get lost in the market? And further, how do you know if you need to start a whole brand refresh or to rebrand all the way from the beginning? Well, today in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio, I'll be talking to a dynamic duo they specialize in branding companies, and they're here to tell us when do you know to do which thing, which path, and they're going to give us all these tips and hacks about what you're going to do what to expect when you're trying to rebrand. Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, an attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade House of Style, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style and dressing them for success. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk. Good morning, Waist Up Wardrobe Nation. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Waist Up Wardrobe. This is episode 141, and today we are bringing you an episode that is so important for us as business owners and entrepreneurs. It's about your brand image. It's about how you stand out in the community, how you stand out in the market, and how to ensure not to really get lost in the noise of the market. But before I get started, I want to say thank you to so many people out there. Thank you to the Waist Up Wardrobe audience. Thank you to Rick Moscoso, my producer, who's always in the green room making this production dynamic and exciting and technically correct. So thank you, Rick, for that. Additionally, know that we are on a lot of social media platforms. We're on iTunes, where you could just listen to us if you can't watch us. And we are on YouTube, where we stream live every Thursday at 11:30 from Facebook at Waist Up Wardrobe. So join us, tell a friend about us, and if you're so inclined, go give us a review on iTunes. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive in and start talking about my guests today. They are a husband and wife team, and they specialize in really high-end design and branding that really helps their clients stand out in the market. And they have been doing this for quite some time now, and they have a lot to share. So let me go ahead and just start bragging about them. Justin and Alyssa Clark are a dynamic husband and wife team who together run the company Clark Studios. And that's a design agency that specializes in branding and print and really all the things that go into branding, including digital design. And in 2001, they built a reputation for delivering really great, outstanding service when it comes to design solutions that really have made a big impact in their clients' lives and have really really made their clients' expectations succeeded or superseded their expectations. And their clients are anything from startup companies to large corporations, and they really help with the branding across all industries. And they really pride themselves on exceptional client service. Their expertise in branding and print and digital design has helped so many businesses achieve their goals and really stand out in this crowded marketplace. I mean, we all know how that feels when we're trying to really speak our brand, but there's so many other people doing it. So it's great to know how you can really utilize what's unique to you as a business and really highlight it in the way you design your brand. So their passion, creativity, and commitment to excellence have made them one of the most enjoyable to work with in design teams in the industry, because that's what their clients say. So please help me welcome Justin and Alyssa to the show. Hi, Alyssa. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Justin, for being here. I know that you guys are super busy, but I feel like there's so much great information here that we can give so many business owners out there, because branding is such an important part of our image. And I think people don't pay enough attention to it. And I feel like branding can be a little bit misunderstood. People don't really understand it so much because so many people call themselves branding experts, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to dive into all of that really soon. But before we get started, I just kind of want to ask some like off-topic questions so that we all can get to know who you are and a little flavor. Okay, well, it looks like everybody's wearing a Hawaiian shirt today or some sort of active design pattern shirt. So let me ask you, do you like Hawaiian shirts or solid colors? Alyssa, what do you think?
I generally am a solid color kind of person, but I don't know. Today it just felt like it's midsummer, so why not be happy?
Why not? Why not? And it was so funny because when we were in the studio, my producer Rick is also wearing
Yeah.
a Hawaiian shirt. I am the only one who is not
Yeah.
compliant.
Color of the day.
Yeah. Justin, I know you and Alyssa are a team, and I guess one of the question I'm going to ask, and this might not be this might be a very I'm kind of walking a fine line. How is it working with a spouse in business?
To me,
super easy. Like no problem.
Yeah, no, it's actually great. People ask us this a lot. People are like, I could never work with my spouse, but being both creatives, Alyssa's a fine artist also, and a trained graphic designer. I'm a designer as well, but we have very complementary styles, and so we kind of like to think of ourselves as like iron sharpening iron. Like we push each other, and we're actually pretty competitive, but it works out.
I love that because that's how we have to be in life too. So you get to practice. It's like business translating it into life, and not everybody can do it. So I commend you because since 2001 is when you've been running your business, right? And so obviously you guys are doing something right, and it sounds like it works for you guys, and I think that's amazing. So beach or mountains, Alyssa?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We're actually headed to the mountains this weekend, up to the Sierras. So we've been doing some backpacking in the last couple of years. And I mean, we're both surfers. Like we both grew up surfing and raised our kids surfing. And I've got palm trees behind me. But lately we're just like, I love the mountains.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's not to like on either side, right?
It's hard.
Yeah, and you guys seem to be very outdoorsy and adventurous, so I'm sure that is why both really resonate with you. Okay, one more question, and I'm gonna turn this to Justin. Justin, if you had to choose between painting and woodshop, which one would it be?
Ooh, I've always wanted to do woodshop. I did it in high school. I would love to have that skill, but I would say painting. Now, I'm not talking about painting the house, but like doing fine art stuff and like paint like. I paint these like really like close up train paintings that are very graphic. There's kind of one behind me.
Yeah, I see that. It's awesome. And this question is also really relevant to Alyssa because I know she's an artist too. And I've seen your art and I think, wow, just two artists, just kind of feeding off of each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful to have you guys here. I'm so glad that we get to sit down and really learn from your genius and learn from the work that you guys do with Clark Studios. Has a part of it is the part where is the brand bar. Justin, can you tell us a little bit about what the brand bar actually is?
Yeah, so Clark Studios is our full service branding graphic design agency. We just launched what's called mybrandingbar.com, and it's a smaller, more packaged offering that where you still our clients still get the agency quality without the agency price. So we've kind of pared down some strategic offerings for brand assessment, and if you need a logo refresh and a brand guidelines. So a simplified version that's more palatable and more cost effective.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love the idea of a bar for branding because it gives the impression that you can select and kind of create your own like there's a set of offerings and you get to pick and choose or figure it out in a custom way, feels custom. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And we use some mixology terminology to your point. It's like the different ingredients coming together, and it also has a connotation of raising the bar of your brand. So
I
we
love
thought
it.
it was clever.
I love it. I think it's clever. And I think I love everything about your branding too. Obviously, it's a good thing I like everything about your branding because I mean, you guys
Yeah.
are a branding company. But it's so cool. You guys each have your own vibe and style. And my philosophy is because, being an image consultant as well as somebody who designs sets for my clients, I consider background like a billboard for your brand. Like if you're not utilizing it to speak your brand, then you're kind of wasting the opportunity, because if you're on camera a lot. And so I play with branding a lot in different ways than you both do. But I always people are saying, you talk to people and they go, "Oh, I'm branding expert." It's like, okay, that's so generic, and people have really not. They don't really know what it means. So I look at brand and branding as style. Like, what is the style you lead with? And when it comes to style, I believe that style should be expressed in every area of your life. So in the way you dress, in the way you live, in the car you drive, in the lifestyle that you lead. Alyssa, do you have thoughts on that, or
Yeah.
agree,
Yeah.
disagree? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, style can be somewhat subjective. There are all kinds of styles that are out there. And it's really up to your imagination in terms of kind of how you choose to represent yourself aesthetically. And that goes for your logo, for your business as well. But I think when we're addressing a project or anything that needs an aesthetic taste or twist, we really utilize the power of observation. So I think understanding like things like balance and scale change and value, lights and darks, I think understanding the fundamentals of what makes good design, I think is really important. And we lead with those foundational principles because you can take those and apply them to any aesthetic that you want to and make it look refined.
Yeah. And you, just the way your company does things, just the sort of that custom feel, because you are paying attention to all these things. How much of it I mean, I would imagine it's a large part. The company that you're working for, how much studying of that company do you have to do? Or is there another way you get to know the essence of who they are as you're developing branding for them? And Justin, I would love to hear your take on that part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So what we do when we engage a new client, we take them through a brand audit, brand assessment. So we go in, and so what we used to do before we kind of shifted our model, we figured out that we don't want to just take on like a website design for a client. So when the client comes and says, "Hey, we need a new website," we say, "Okay, put on the brakes. Let's talk about why you need a website. What's the purpose it's supposed to serve? Who is it serving? What are your products? How are they priced? What's the customer journey?" So like all these like back end things that we need to discover with the client before we start working on aesthetics. And that really, our clients are loving it because we spend, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours with their team, and we get an understanding of, who their target audience is, what's their brand's personality, how do they see themselves versus how their target audience sees them, and what's the disparity there? How do we take what's missing and patch those holes? And all of that helps inform the messaging that we come up with, which is just as important as the visual aesthetics. Those two have to work hand in hand. So we have to really dive deep and get an understanding of where the client wants to go. We talk about like a SWOT analysis. What's their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats. So we look at all these things that play into how your client or customer is going to receive your brand by the way you're talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of it is sort of like a psychology, right? There is psychology element in brand. wouldn't you say, Alyssa, there's this element of like, how are you impacting the person who's receiving the message? Is it really landing in the way that you as the a brand owner wants it to land? Right?
Yeah, because we talk about this a lot in our company. It's not enough just to create something pretty for someone just for the sake of making it look a certain way. But the perception of the person that's on the other side of that, your customers or the people that you're serving, when you're branding your own personal company, their perception of what your brand is where your brand exists. It doesn't exist within your own mind. It exists in the mind of your customer. And so if you're misaligned and your message and your visuals aren't speaking to kind of how your customers might see your company, then it can be as beautiful as any other logo, but it's still going to say the wrong thing about how your customers are perceiving your company. So, and that's a psychological thought process to sort of figure out, okay, like who are we speaking to and what's going to resonate with them? Because you need to have that instant brand recognition. And if you're missing the mark, then people aren't going to make that connection.
Yeah. Well, that is the thing. You have to almost get into the minds of the people that your target market, right? Justin, you're going to say something.
Oh yeah, I was just going to expand on that. It's a psychological thing for sure. It's like, as a brand, you need to figure out not only who your target audience is, but what are their pain points? Why are they coming to you? What are they struggling with? How can you solve their problem? And that's gonna turn them into, eventually a loyal customer because you're solving their like tangible issues.
Right. I mean, that's why people hire anybody, right? They want that problem that they're dealing with to be solved. We talked a little bit about different avenues companies take. So for instance, like if we think about big brands like Coca-Cola or some of the bigger box name brands, those logos over time have really evolved. Their branding has evolved. It changes, but we still always recognize it, right? So my question to you, Justin, on this one is there is a brand refreshing and there's just building the brand from ground up. So how does a company, when they come to you, how do you determine which is more appropriate? Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question also. So rebranding is very different from a brand refresh. So rebranding is basically it's a complete overhaul. And this could happen in a couple different contexts. It could be you're starting a company, right? So you need your initial branding set up. Or it plays into like mergers and acquisitions. So if you buy another company or you're acquired, then those entities have to figure out if they're going to stick with one name or if they're going to completely rebrand into a new name and a new identity, so a new logo. And then a brand refresh is not starting from the ground up. A brand refresh is more like the Coca-Cola example that you gave, where they're so in tune with how their brand is being perceived that they always want to be evolving it. So it's almost like micro evolution as opposed to macro evolution. They're maintaining their brand equity. So to your point, like we always know it's Coca-Cola, but there's some granular shifts in the type treatments and, little nuances that will bring it up into the current age. And so you've got to take into consideration, trends and culture and, modern look and feel and how they're resonating with their customers all plays into refreshing your brand. I like to explain a brand refresh like, I'll give an analogy of like a snake, and that's why I wear my snake shirt. It's like, it's kind of a positive and a negative. So we don't like snakes, right? But it's a good analogy because as the snake grows and it is evolving, it outgrows its skin, right? So it climbs out of its skin or whatever, slithers out of its skin, leaves that old one behind, but it still has remnants of who that snake was, and the patterns and all that, but it emerges with a shiny new coat. So it's almost like you're polishing what you already have. Yeah. And that could look like, when I speak of maintaining brand equity, So you want your customer to still recognize what you're doing, and that you're paying attention and keeping your brand fresh and relevant, but you're not ditching it completely. So there's not a disconnect. So you
Yeah.
may keep some of the color palette, or you may keep a script font as opposed to changing it to a non-script font. So it's those nuances.
Yeah. Well, very interestingly, I have an analogy that isn't snake related. But it's kind of like when I work with my clients' wardrobe, right? I give them really the idea is to give them a signature feel and look and vibe. So we really evolve what would be them, what when they wear, people recognize it as, oh, that is so you. But as year after year, season after season, sometimes you have to bring it up to speed. You have to make it current.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's the polishing of it, right? So that they don't get stuck in an outdated image when it comes to wardrobe. So again, here is branding having sort of that framework, right? That basic framework where the foundation pieces for all the parts in your brand, whether it's the image in the way you wardrobe yourself, whether it's in your logo, whether it's in the language on your website or your social media, all the things, same idea. They need to be refreshed. Now, is there ever a time, Alyssa, maybe I don't know if you would be the one to shed light on this, but is there ever a time, since Justin was talking about this, where you don't recommend, you say the brand looks great as it is, we don't need to really do anything, like it's great, it's working for you. Does that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, oh, for sure. That for sure happens. We have a client right now. We're doing a bunch of marketing and design for them, but their logo is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be refreshed at the moment, because I think you have to be careful about when you do that refresh. You don't want to, like Justin said, you don't want to disconnect with your customers. You don't want them to stop recognizing and the brand awareness that you've already built up over time. And you have to, I think, hiring an expert to do that for you is important, because an expert will understand how to maintain your brand equity without completely, disconnecting your brand from your customer. And so if a company doesn't need a brand refresh, then we don't force them to do that, or encourage them to do that, just because it can throw things off a little bit. But there's always a time for it. They'll probably be ready for it in maybe 3 or 4 years or less.
Yeah. So this is it's such an interesting topic because there's so many multiple facets to it. When you are starting a branding project, Justin, are there like certain elements are really important that you feel like you need to determine these certain elements or foundation pieces before, and let's just say it's a rebrand. Let's say you're starting from scratch. What are like, the elements are most important when you're trying to really help somebody stand out?
Yeah. Well, what we do once we get through the brand assessment and the brand audit, and we see where the holes are and what pain points our clients are having, let alone their customers, what we do is we design and we produce what we call stylescapes. So think of a mood board that is like highly elevated. So a stylescape is a single board, if you will, or let's say canvas that shows what a brand's visual encapsulation could look like. So that stylescape shows styles of photography, color palette, different fonts and typography, different graphic patterns, graphic icons, all that tell this visual, succinct story of what your brand could look like in a hypothetical. And so we'll present 2 or 3 of those that are all very unique and different from each other. So based on the feedback that we get from the client, are they in the tech space? Are they more modern and sophisticated, innovative? Like, then we'll take an approach like that with a color palette, and then we'll do something that's very different to be complementary to that. And then we present it to the client, we talk through it. Sometimes we marry the 2 ideas, but we walk away with a very clear visual representation of what the brand could look like. So then we work in the logo, then we work on the website, and everything filters through that lens
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that for the client to see that visual piece of what the possibilities are is so important, right? Because we are visually, it's easier to be able to visualize it if you actually see something drawn up for you rather than um, listen to a description of it. So that makes a lot of sense. So I just curious, Justin, before I go on to Alyssa, do you have a favorite brand, like a brand out there that's a pretty big brand that you think has done their um, branding really, really on point?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I should be able to answer this more succinctly, but I mean, I love like Apple. I mean, it's kind of a
Yeah.
vanilla answer, but the way they do things and their innovation and how clear their message is, they're clearly speaking to, lifestyle and accessibility, as opposed to being the technological leader.
Hmm.
Because if you look at their brand and understand their history and how they used to talk about their brand,
Hmm.
like Steve Jobs used to run like 8-page ads about all the technical jargon of how they're superior, and it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Then he condensed it to think differently, and they positioned their brand into lifestyle, and then their electronics kind of bolstered that, like backfilled it, and that's how their brand has gotten where it is today.
Yeah.
So it's
The whole
respectable.
lifestyle piece, right? I mean, that there's nobody that really doesn't. I mean, I guess there are a few people that don't have Apple, but I mean, that is definitely like it's almost like an international language. It's an
Yeah.
international thing to have.
Yeah.
Um, any okay, this is such a random question. So, Kristen Levine's here and she's saying she loves their packaging too. And Kristen, then you'll be interested to hear this next random question I'm gonna throw at you, Justin. Any
Okay.
idea why the Apple logo has a bite taken out of it?
No, that's a good question. I do know the rest of its evolution. I don't know if you guys have seen, you could Google it, but their original logo
Uh-huh.
is a picture of Sir Isaac Newton. And it's not even a picture, it's like this line drawing. It's a very detailed, like if you scale it down, you can't even see what was going on
Uh-huh.
before they got to the Apple. But no, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I don't know if anybody's ever studied that. I heard some things and I just was curious. So anyway, but Alyssa, I'm going to turn it to you. I want to know what you like, in your opinion, just from a branding expert as well as just a consumer. What is a brand that you find really is powerful, right? Stands out or speaks to you?
Yeah, there's a brand that I love that's local here in Costa Mesa, and they're a surfboard company. It's called Allman Surfboards. I don't know if you've heard of them. Their whole aesthetic is it's somewhat minimalistic, and it's got a really classic vibe to it. And I tend to be a minimalist in my design work. Um, and I just think that they've done a great job with their entire brand, all of their messaging. It's just a delightful company. I think they've been around for maybe like 15 years or so. But yeah, they're local guys here in Costa Mesa. They're surfers. Their boards are beautiful. They just did everything well, from their products to
They're like
their
works of art.
design. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorites.
I actually am going to check them out. It sounds, I'm curious about the idea of the almond. Is it because of the shape of a surfboard? What is it exactly? I'm kind of curious now, so I'm going to look into that. But I love the smaller brands too that really knock it out of the park, right?
Yeah.
The smaller kind of companies that knock out. I mean, Apple goes without saying. For me, when I think about branding, I love the way Nespresso does its branding. I think it's sort of the Louis Vuitton of coffee. Just when you walk into their store, the way everything is stacked. I love it. So
Yeah.
and just the whole experience, right? Everything now is experiential. So I think any company now that's giving you that experience and they're speaking their brand in every area is like super powerful. Because the problem is, and that was my next question, Alyssa, is that if you are in an industry that's very saturated, right? There's a lot of people out there doing the same thing you do. As the branding consultant, do you feel like it's harder to help them stand out, or do you always feel confident that you could help with that? Because I feel that sometimes, like, you look at industries like the coaching industry, right? Or like like areas are super saturated. How do you deal with that? And do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a hard one because I think being able, if you're in a saturated industry, being able to stand out is very difficult to do. And I think that, you know, understanding who you are as a brand and as a person, just like when you're dressing yourself, like I'm sure you experience this when you're putting together people's wardrobes. I think if you take the essence of a company or a person and you really boil it down to the essentials, then I think that you can apply those solid brand principles to kind of whatever their essence is, and I think those two things combined, because each company is unique, each person is unique, right? Like there's no two people that are ever the same. And I think if you really just draw out like the uniqueness of a company and you do it well, then they're going to end up standing out at least to who their customers are, because there's no shortage of the amount of people that are out there that will resonate with what you're doing. I think that's better than trying to just kind of copycat another company that's doing what you're doing. I think that's actually a dangerous approach, because then you just sort of get lost in the noise when companies just kind of copycat each other. I think it's better to just find what's unique, drill down into that and go with it. And the people who you are meant to serve will be like magnets to your brand, because you got to who the core of your business is or your personality is.
Yeah, I feel like copycat branding is like anti-branding. Like that's not branding. That's just, being somebody else, right?
Well, and it's kind of lazy. Like it takes a lot of work to really draw out the essence of a brand or a person, as you know, because you do this all the time with your clients.
Yeah.
So you just have to be very thoughtful about it and be a good listener. I think really understand kind of where your brand or your customer is coming from.
Yeah, I've got a thought on that too, if we have a minute. So I think the question was, if there's a ton of people in your space, a lot of competition. I think the question then becomes, how are you different? Like to Alyssa's point and to your point, Christine, like we're all different. All brands are different, even if they're selling, almost the same product. It's how are you talking about it? And I think what Alyssa you're getting at is, what's the unique selling proposition? What's your USP? What truly makes you different? And then you drill down into that, and that's what you talk about. We had a client a few years back, they're a dermatology company. And they came to us, they said, we need a rebrand. We don't know, there's so much competition in the dermatology space. We're just drowning. I'm like, okay, let's assess this. Let's look at your visuals. Let's see your messaging. And they brought it out, and it was like pictures of dermatologists sticking needles in people's faces for Botox. And like, this is their advertising. And like, I was totally turned off, and I'm sure their audience is mostly turned off. And so we stepped back and we said, okay, we know what you're doing. We know what the competition's doing. Let's go in the other direction. And so they're a Newport Beach based company here in California. And so we're like, let's sell the lifestyle portion. Let's sell the result. Let's show beautiful people doing beautiful things with their family and, the end result, as opposed to the process. And that campaign went through the roof and just really grew their business.
Yeah, we took it more fashion forward, and they were really happy with it.
I love that. That is really sort of why having somebody who's an expert in the field can really make or break how you stand out in the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. I'm going to ask Rick to come up on stage here, because I have a question for him. Because when I started my company, Rick was really instrumental in helping me think about my brand and where it was going. And he had done a branding video for me. So here's another piece of your branding, right? There he is picking his head. Hi, Rick. And Rick is an expert at video production and so many other things. He does a lot of my photography as well, and he's my showrunner. But he really is very well versed on sort of the branding side when it comes to video, right? And I remember when we sat down together, Rick, one of the very first questions you asked me was, "Well, how are you different than another stylist?" I had a really hard time with that question. Remember?
That's a tough question that I think any good marketer has to ask in the individual. So it forces you to see yourself in the eyes of your audience, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I said, like I explain in a lot of my my videos when we do pre-production. It's like, you may see yourself as one thing, but everybody else sees you as this. So there's a disconnect. It's not congruent with the brand you're trying to portray. So let's fix that, And it's same thing when you're creating a marketing video. You have to really keep that in the back of your mind, or help your client understand that in the back of their mind, so they're saying the right things. They're marketing themselves truly what the customer expects, not what you think they should want. You're not forcing it down on them.
Yeah. And I am trying to think back to why that was so hard for me, because I kept thinking it was the person that's delivering the service was the difference. And I kept trying to figure out how I was going to bring that out. And I kept thinking, you got to experience it first. But the idea of branding is like, you have to be able to kind of translate in all these different areas so that they understand without you having to explain it. Right, Alyssa? I see you nodding your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And Rick was so powerful in helping me understand branding from the perspective of a brand video. And he really, that question that Justin was saying that you ask is like, what makes you different is so important when you're trying to stand out in the marketplace. And so again, here we go. Another part of branding, right, Rick, is that video production, like what we're doing here on the podcast, or creating a brand video, or any of the video that we're putting out there is considered part of your brand. So
I have a process question for Justin and Alyssa.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you ask that tough question, and what makes you different, right? A lot of times, in my experience with video, customers in their video production, they give very superficial answers or canned answers. What's your process, and how do you really dig into that to uncover why they're different?
Well, we've got a series of prompts that we go through with our clients when we're in the assessment and audit stage. So when we're really trying to get to who their personality is as a brand, we've got some good questions that we ask them, but we don't allow them to give us canned answers. So we kind of play the bad guy and like, no. So we're like devil's advocate. Like, okay, we know that that's the right answer. Now, what's the true answer, right? Like when we talk about branding, there's a lot. It has to do with trust and truth and delivery expectations. So we need to be as real as we can, because our clients and customers aren't stupid. They're going to see through it,
Yeah. And so much psychology in that, right, Alyssa? Like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think you have to also ask, what problems are you solving for your customers, and you have to drill down into like the visceral gut reaction to like, ooh, yeah, like this is resonating with me right now because I really have a problem that I can't solve myself and I need someone to help me. So I'm going to call Christine because my background's horrible and I don't know what to wear. And so, like you got me thinking about my backgrounds. Like I totally changed my whole setup from, I was sitting in my kitchen, I think the first couple of times we ever talked on a Zoom call. And, now, I
love it.
You've totally got me thinking. So I don't do Zoom meetings unless I'm sitting in front of this backdrop.
I love that.
I'm wearing big earrings. So like, I know you've really helped solve a problem, I think, Or actually, I wouldn't even back up and say something that I wasn't really thinking about, and I should have been thinking about because I'm in branding, but I wasn't translating it to how I was presenting myself, my personal brand on screen. And so the fact that you just got me asking that question, like, hey, like, how do I want to be perceived when I'm speaking with clients? Well, I need to be professional. So, and you're the one that brought that to the forefront of my mind. So thank you. Yeah.
You. That's such a wonderful thing to say. And
but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So solving problems, right? Solving problems, how you solve your customers' problems, that's what's going to make you different and make you stand out in the market.
Oh, I'm getting so much love here. Thank you guys. It's so good for my ego.
It's true. I'm not lying. Like, it's true.
This is unscripted, people.
Yeah. And then Kristen's tuned in, and she even says, I'm working with Christine as a stylist. I feel so me when I get dressed now. I love it. Thank you guys. Awesome. I did not plan this. But this is really amazing. So I wanted to tell the audience, because we've been talking about the auditing a lot, the audit, right? I want to tell the audience that you guys have with the hashtag brand it and shine, that, and then Rick is going to put that up so people remember when they're listening to replay in particular, hashtag brand it and shine, that they would be basically, they'd be able to get the link to the audit. Is that correct? Is that correct, Alyssa? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you want the audit, so that you can audit your brand, it is free, but you'll need to get the link. So you need to identify yourself by putting in the hashtag brand it and shine. And I just wanted to put it out there because we talked about the audit a lot, and I'm sure people are going, well, I wish I could figure out like how I get my hands on the audit. So you got it. I have an interesting question, and I'm going to direct this one to Justin. When your client wants to go a certain direction with their branding, and you disagree, how would you handle that?
We don't get that a ton, because usually when clients come to us, they know that they need to trust the experts. And I think a lot of the time, when you're so close to your own business and your own brand, it's hard to be objective about it. So they're acting from an emotional, subjective standpoint. So we hear them, we listen, we talk it out, and then we take that and we bring it back to our team and we say, first of all, would you allow us, to present some alternative ideas, and then we can weigh them out together. And usually their idea goes off the table more often than not, because they haven't really thought through the root of why they think that. So it's really about drilling down and getting to that root question and problem.
Yeah. Well, I will say, there's some industries like in my industry, right? When I'm dressing somebody, if they, I always say you have to be able to wear something I'm suggesting and own it. If you can't, then it's not really for you. It's my job to show you things outside of the box that you're in. And like you said, when they come to you in trust, then they basically are putting themselves in your hands and they trust it. But when I guess maybe addressing, especially women entrepreneurs, is a little bit different, because we are so selective, we're just selective in the way we present, like dress up, really. And so sometimes people will be like, no, I don't think I could do that, and that's okay. That is okay. But I feel like it's my responsibility to tell them that the world could see you in a different light. Right? So Alyssa, do you have anything to add to what Justin said?
I think that's a very personal thing, and a lot of times clients are very personally attached to sort of a visual or a way they want something to look. And I think there's certainly a level of compromise that we have to take when we're working with someone. I think that's where the skill of being an expert, and we've been doing what we've been doing for over 20 years, and learning to listen well, I think is kind of how we've kind of figured this out, like how to merge what we know to be right and good from a design standpoint, and then taking the desires of the client and finding a compromise that's maybe leaning a little more towards kind of what we would prefer for them. I think It's just a skill set that we've had to hone in on for several years. So, and then, and it's personal. Like people have emotional attachments to the way they want to dress or the way they want their company to look, their branding, their logo, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can add on to that real quick. That I like to use the analogy. I'm full of analogies and dad jokes, but I'll keep the dad jokes off. I won't go there. So when we face a client like that, yes, Alyssa, we have to listen, we have to hear, we have to be empathetic, and then we have to break it down. But I like to give the analogy of a doctor, right? So you're paying a doctor because you've got an ailment. You go there for a diagnosis because he's the expert, he's the doctor. Sure, you could YouTube it and try and figure it out, but that's risky. So you wouldn't go to the doctor and say, no, I don't believe you, or at least you would get a second opinion, but you're not going to diagnose yourself because at the end of the day, you're not fully objective about it. So that's why you come to the expert in the first place.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I don't think it happens very often because once somebody engages the service of somebody like yours or mine, they really have they've done their homework, right? And they're like, okay, I trust you. You tell me what to do, because they haven't wanted to make those decisions on their own. They are coming to somebody to say, hey, I'm paying you to do it for me. And and so run with it. So I totally understand. Every once in a while, there'll be somebody say, I don't know. I just don't know, but that's a really interesting, that that it doesn't really come up that much because of course, the level of service that you've given out and your reputation. I want to know how people can connect with you guys if they wanted to learn more about your services. Is there what's the easiest way? Alyssa.
We have two websites. We have a corporate site, and then we have the website that we've been talking about today, which is mybrandingbar.com. We can be contacted easily through there.
Okay. Yeah. Is there an email that you guys would like to put out there, or should they just go to the website and it'll be there, right?
Yeah, I think Justin, is it team at mybrandingbar.com, I believe?
Nope, it's hello
at
mybrandingbar.com.
That's right.
Okay. Hello at mybrandingbar.com.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And we have your websites up here in the comments that will live there. So if there is one takeaway that we can leave the audience with when it comes to their branding, when it comes to the kind of work you really think every company should really have, or just take away from this conversation, Justin, what do you think that one takeaway would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say this is more high level. I would say that your brand is your promise to your customer or your client.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, you can unpack that in all sorts of ways. But at the end of the day, the way you're presenting your brand, your product packaging, the surveys you send out to your clients, checks and balances, like your brand is a promise to your customer. And that's why they're there, because they trust you. They like your products. You're being taken care of.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I talk about a lot. Like I said, I brought up Rick because he did the branding video. There's so many pieces to branding, right? There's all the work that you do. There's the way your image, the way you show up on video, but also your customer journey. The customer journey that you create for your client is really, really important. Everything has to tie in for it to really, for it to stand out, right? So then, when you see part of your brand being expressed in a certain way, like, oh, I know that's that company, right? Alyssa, are there any tools that you can recommend for the audience to really kind of start thinking about either a brand refresh or really honing their brand?
Yeah, we have a quiz on our website that's free. You can go on there and run through the quiz. It's 10 questions, I think, and that'll kind of help give you your own mental assessment in terms of where you're at with your branding, if you need a rebrand or a refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as the audit that people can get when they put in the hashtag brand it and shine. So those are really two amazing tools. We always try and kind of give the audience a couple tips to kind of run with. Justin, any ideas on a couple tips?
Yeah, I've got lots of tips. I'll narrow it to two.
Okay.
The first one is, I would say your brand is ever evolving. It is always evolving. It needs to be on your radar at all times. Branding seems to get pushed to the back burner because you're focused on your product and your service and your client journey, which are all very important.
Yeah.
But you need to keep in mind that your competitors are on top of it. So you don't want to get left in the dust by not being proactive. So that's one tip. The second one would be how important marketing actually is if you're looking to grow and scale your business. We've prided ourselves for 20 years by saying we don't do marketing. We've never had to. Our work shines and it's all referral based, and that's all good, right? We need that as small business owners or business owners. But if you're really trying to grow your business, you really need to have that marketing engine. So there's sales that need to happen. There's marketing that needs to happen as equal, because you need brand awareness. You need to be telling your story. You need to be speaking to your customers' pain points through your messaging. So it's ever evolving.
Yeah. I mean, all those things under the umbrella of branding. I mean, it is really people misunderstand that branding is just the logo, right? There's so many pieces to it, and everything should tie in. Everything should be consistent, so it's not confusing, so it stands out, all the things. So that was really, really good information, about really focusing on that marketing plan, right? So Justin, before I move on to one of the last pieces that I want to ask Alyssa, you create the logo, the essence, the color scheme. What other pieces go into the product that you as a company deliver, just so people are clear about your custom work?
Yeah, definitely. So what comes out of the brand audit that we keep talking about and the assessment is one of the differentiators, I would say, for how we go about our process is we help our clients figure out what their internal mission statement is. So we all have an external, and a lot of them are very vague. Like, we exist to help our customers have a better life. Okay, what does that really mean? Like, so we boil it down to some economic objectives, right? So we say, what are like 3 tangible things that we can achieve by this date, and for what reason? So we've got this compacted kind of vision and mission that that your whole team is going to understand, and everyone's going to be marching in the same direction. So once we have those economic goals, then we reverse engineer it, and we back into what are those marketing channels in order to reach those target audiences, in order to get that, to achieve that economic objective.
Right. And then what kind of assets do you need to support each of those funnels? So it's digital, it's website, it's print, it
could be an email drip campaign that leads to a value download that gets a customer to opt in and sign up. And so then that's a lead generator, right? And then they're in your funnel, and then you start sending them more value added things, just freebies that are beneficial to them. And then, you sell them something later once you've built up that trust, if they want it.
There's a whole marketing show right there for me to have for all the things you need to know about marketing. That's amazing. People might listen to this and they're like, okay, this is great. Now I've learned that branding is really important. I need to stand out. There's a lot to branding than I thought. If we have to give them an action item, somewhere they could start, just somewhere where they can really effectively start, where would you say, what would you say an action item is, Elisa?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand your industry and who your competitors are. And I would take a look at what they're doing. I would also take a look at industries that might be the opposite of yours and see if you can pull from another industry, a lot of times that's a kind of a simpler way to differentiate yourself from a visual standpoint, is to kind of cross-pollinate, if you will. And then I think understanding what good design is. I don't know how studious your audience is, but there are some really good branding books that are out there that kind of help. I'm reading this book right now called Primal Branding. It's an older book. I don't know if I have it on my desk right here, but that's really helpful just to kind of understand from a learner's standpoint, what is good branding, understanding the history of art and design. Graphic design is only 100 years old. It's a new medium in light of like the history of the world. So do a little bit of art history study and kind of get an idea. We like to pull from the past and kind of recreate things and make things fresh and new again. So
I love that. I love that. That's actually, I feel like there's a whole conversation there about just that piece, right? Is how do you study your brand in relation to historical branding and what's new in branding and all those things. I'm a learner too, so I the stuff up. So wow. Well, that was really packed and it was so good. And you guys are really a dynamic duo. I'm so excited that you guys agreed to come on the show and really share your genius and share your business and everything. So your website is up on the page. It will live there, mybrandingbox.com. And again, I'm so happy you guys are here, and we'll definitely continue the conversation. Maybe on marketing, or maybe this whole idea that Alyssa, you brought up about pulling from the past.
Yeah.
To create a brand. I think that's that's a really great title. So
awesome. Yeah.
Yes, here.
Great.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And there you have it, Waist Up Wardrobe Nation. That was our episode on branding refreshing or rebranding, and all the things you have to think about when it comes to really having your brand stand out in the market. I hope that's given you some ideas. I hope it's given you sort of that energy to start kind of exploring what your brand has said so far in the market and how you can make it even better. And we're on at every Thursday at 11:30 Pacific time on Facebook at Waist Up Wardrobe, bringing you a new fresh show about how to show up on camera professionally, have a great presence on video and camera, and anything and everything entrepreneurship. So join us next week and bring a friend. Thank you guys. That was so amazing. And thank you for the shout out. That was so.
Well, I mean, I was being genuine and I didn't even know I was going to say that, but it just came to my mind when we were talking about it.
Thank you. Well, both your backgrounds look so on point. Just, it feels like your vibe, like, that sort of vibe, that beach kind of like rugged, but still very like hip. And it's really cool. Like you guys really have nailed that. And it's really awesome. And yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I haven't done this with all of my shows, only some of the shows that are like Pinnacle member guests. I'm going to actually put it on the Pinnacle page that we've done this, so people can maybe go back and look at it and kind of, give us both visibility, but like get them to maybe know a little bit about you guys too. And,
awesome.
And then the link lives in the Facebook page and it's on iTunes and all that. It's like evergreen and it's forever until like, I don't know, whenever it stops, I guess, just forever. And
Mhm.
it will be there. You can always refer clients to it if they needed to like learn a little bit. Like you
Okay.
can speedy recap. Like I'll do a little speedy recap right now after we're off, and that's like a little summary, and then I'll use that to promote. So yeah.
Is this
So
a Facebook link? Can you throw it in our chat or?
yeah. And let's see. Rick, are you there? I want to take a picture of all four of us. So before I do that, there we go. I see your face. Hey. All right. I'm going to take a picture of us for social, maybe. Okay. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let me make sure everybody's eyes are open because that's like the worst thing. Okay. Yeah. Everybody's good. So the Facebook link Alyssa needs for her to promote, right? So
I just is that
Oh.
what you were talking about? It's a Forevergreen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was in the email that I sent you guys. I don't know whose email it went to, but it had the
Okay, we
link
have it.
for Facebook and
Yeah.
YouTube.
and if you can't find it, I'll resend it to you. No problem. It's
Oh, I
basically,
see it.
yeah. How did it go for you guys? Did it feel good? I mean,
Lovely.
okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
It was
All
so
right.
fun.
Yeah, and this will be a great thing. I love putting this when I'm interviewing a Pinnacle member. I love putting it on the Pinnacle page because then it gives people an understanding of my show, but also of the people I interviewed, like what they do and how they do it. Because
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
know.
Awesome.
You never know. Yeah. Well, good luck. Enjoy your trip that's coming up, and maybe we can connect. Down the line or something when summer's over. I'm sure you guys are busy in the summer, so.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For sure. If not before the next Pinnacle retreat, then we'll see you probably then, hopefully. So
Yeah, the one in November, right? There's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that, and then there should be a roundtable.
in September on my calendar. So
Yeah.
we'll see you then. Yeah, that's
All right.
right.
All right, guys.
So
Thank you.
good. So good.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Christine.
you.
See you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was fun.
Branding is such an
They-
important topic.
They could have kept going too. I mean,
Oh,
there's
I know.
so much good stuff.
So much good, right? I mean, the whole thing of marketing, and then the whole thing about pulling from history to kind of like, I mean, branding is such a great topic if you really know what you're talking about, right? Because people think about branding as, oh yeah, it's your packaging, it's your logo, but it's not just that. Yeah. Okay, so I should probably do my speedy recap.
Yep, you ready?
Oh, hold on 1 second. I just need to check my text. Sorry, Rick.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, let me do the speedy recap and then we'll click off and we'll talk. Okay. All right.
All right. Okay.
Branding and design. Branding and design are a big part of your business image. Sorry, I'm going to start over again. Branding and design are a big part of your business image. Having a great brand style can make you stand out in the marketplace, or it can make you get you lost. Okay. I'm going to start over again. Sorry. Branding and design are a big part of your business image, and having a good brand style can make you stand out in the market, or you can get lost in the market if the brand image isn't really aligned and on point. So how do you create a brand that will stand out in the marketplace and make you stand? Ooh, I almost was okay. Okay, let's do it again. I'm providing plenty of bloopers here, Rick. Branding and design are a big part of your business image. So how do you create a brand style that stands out in the marketplace and doesn't get lost in it so that people can recognize you and know exactly what you do? Good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And episode 141, brand with purpose. Okay. In Waist Up Wardrobe, episode 141, the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up in a nutshell boils down to this. The main takeaway is our guest said was that your branding is the promise you give to your market, to your target market, to your client. So you have to stand by that promise by having on point branding that makes sense and resonates with them. Is that good for the takeaway?
Yes, that'll work.
Okay. Our experts on this show who own a branding company told us our guest experts on the show who own a branding company, Clark Studios and Design, gave us 2 tools that could be really key to really help you figure out where your branding is at now and where to go with it. And that is the quiz that they have on their website, as well as a audit chart that you can use so that you can understand where you are right now with your brand. To find that, you go to mybrandbar.com. Is that right? Oh, it's my branding bar. Okay. I have to do that whole thing over again now?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Okay. Tools. Okay. Our guests on the show gave us 2 tools to use so that we can really help us understand where our brand is now and where we can go with it. And you can find these tools on their website at mybrandingbar.com. And the 2 tools are a quiz that you could take and an auditing process to really understand where your brand is right now. And a tip that was given to us. Brand. And a tip that was given to us by our experts was that really understand that your brand is ever evolving. You continuously have to check it and make sure that it's consistent with everything, every part of your brand, and that you're really giving out the message that is important. Finally, your action item. Go learn more about your brand. See where it is today. Take that audit and use it and start studying historically what has been done branding in similar industries and try and figure out how you're going to make yourself stand out by being different.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah?
Cool. Yep. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right, let me end.
Okay, perfect.